think like the obstacles are huge, monolithic, fucking like steel girded sins they've committed. No, it's just a nonchalant taking yourself to be something else. Yeah, and the language supports it. And then you live as if that was true, which it isn't, so that's an interpretation.
Right.
So
But
we live in interpretation, and we look around and we interpret everyone else's living as an interpretation.
right.
And there you go. So
But but
Yeah, I need that
but,
internal reminder. Like,
but yeah. But once you see that, right? I mean, then it's going to continue. But then it just becomes hilarious.
yes, it continues. Yes,
It
because
continues, and then it's just like, to me, most of the times it's pretty funny, but sometimes I just don't like to be funny. You know, I just like to be serious. And that continues too. And it's all, I don't care what it does.
yes, there you go. Yeah. Again, the subtle identification is you believe if you change, it changes because
Nothing
it's
changes.
you, but it ain't. So
No.
this is confusing when something in you has solidified on some new basis, and yet it's doing the same old, same old.
That's
And
the
so
funny part.
you get it's funny if you see that. If you don't see it, it's not funny.
It's
thank
still
you.
funny.
Thank
It's
you.
funny. It's
It's
funny when you see
from
it in other
others.
people.
Yeah, it's funny when it's
Hilarious if
in
you're
others.
seeing it.
Yeah, yeah, but it's not funny for them.
I wasn't
But
having
that's
fun right
funny
before you
though. When
called
it's
it.
not funny for them, for some reason, I get like sick humor in it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of it.
I
There's
mean,
a
I
lot.
wasn't having fun right up to the moment you spotted it, and then I lightened up a little bit there.
Yeah, again, because see, it's has a seeming living narrative or a narrative about living, and we've sort of in a way, without knowing it, as the big book would say, signed up for it. So we've relegated it to tell us how our life is. Yeah. And so what can, the Course in Miracles says it. If you have appointed this thing to be the eyes that sees your world, then why would you ever have any suspicion about its information? But yeah, now you have suspicion about its information. Yeah, because any life run on it is hardly going to be a success, as stated in our book, the Book of Recovery.
What
So,
defines success though? Yeah.
well, success, well, yeah, you and I define success. To
I
me,
know. That's funny too, yeah.
yes, that is funny because people could see success as a lot of things. To
Yeah,
me,
man.
success is just content and satisfied. Yeah, as the underlying basis of how you deal with things instead of agitated and chaotic.
That's successful
Like
too.
it says, you're going to have serenity is going to replace calamity. Yes. It doesn't talk about the topic at hand. It says your reaction is serene or calamitous, and that's where the change is going to be. Life may just dish you the same hand, but you'll react and respond differently. Yeah. With no thought or effort on your part. You're not trying to be better. Yeah. You're just seeing better, so to speak. Yeah. So, well, let's start. Who's running the show today?
I am Paul, Michael Alcoholic.
All right, Mike.
Hey everybody, welcome. I did start. I started recording because sometimes the before show is just as good as the show. So
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I
so
apologize if someone went through the site and it doesn't say Thursday, because I went to the site. It didn't say today. But if you, anytime this happens, hit any Zoom link, it's the same link. You can get into it. And if you want to just check out and see if it's actually happening or not. So, yeah. So how you want to do it today, Mike? Read something
so
or?
Yeah, I have a small question to ask to get you primed, I guess, and I liked how you just kind of like organically started the meeting in the first place. But welcome everybody to the Reflections on the 12 Steps with Paul Hedderman. Just a friendly announcement, friendly reminder that this is not an AA meeting. It's just one member's view on the exact nature of the wrong, as described on page 64 of the AA Big Book, and the solutions contained therein. And speaking of solution, I often hear you talk about solution, that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is a solution worthy of the word solution. And I like that. And I had to look up the word solution. And one of the definitions I found was in the scientific area, where something gets dissolved into something. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Like get dissolved into the program, or get dissolved into that spirit, that higher power. And so it prompted me to think, like, how is it that first we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure, being convinced that self manifested in various ways what has defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. How is it that considering the common manifestations of self worthy of being a solution?
All right. Well, because that's the problem from the point of view of recovery. Yes? The problem is the bondage of self. So we ask on the third step, please relieve us of the bondage of self. Is there a self to be bound to? No, it's a mental activity. Yeah. The head takes the body to represent us, when there may be much more representation of a different nature, maybe of spirit, than it is of a body. But now the body is attempting to become spiritual for most of us. Yeah. And that's sort of something that's not going to dissolve into the other thing. So the body is not going to be dissolved into spirit. Yeah. It's like water and oil, so to speak. So that's not going to happen. So we wanted to dissolve ourselves many, many times. In a way, active addiction is sort of like a slow suicide in a lot of ways. You're knowing you're doing stuff and it doesn't matter. I remember I was parked right outside a hospital on Stanton Street in San Francisco, and I was in my little car, and I had some Coke, I had a syringe, I didn't have any water, and it didn't matter. I just used spit and I shot up, knowing something was going to happen. And usually what happens when you do that, you get an abscess. Yeah. And an abscess is no fun. You have to go to a clinic, and then they dig a hole out of your arm, and then they put some gauze in there, and you walk around with like a little, like a hole in your arm. And there's no way in hell you could convince me I did that. I chose to do that. There's no way in hell. Something had taken over the ship and was running it aground every day. And I was powerless, as they say. The dilemma is powerlessness. What makes it a dilemma is I still thought I had power. And obviously life was showing me I didn't have any, but that stubborn misunderstanding was going to be the death of me, really. So to me, this solution is sort of, let's say the problem is water, but it's in the form of an iceberg. And the solution dissolves that iceberg, and now the iceberg goes back into its natural quality, which is moving water. So to me, if you want to use that definition of solution, I would say the solution dissolves the problem, which is sort of like an iceberg. And in that dissolving, all of that water gets free to be water again. It's not stuck in a form and sort of trapped where it seems completely separated from the water it's in because it's in a form of an iceberg. So using that imagery, I could see the solution dissolves that iceberg, and then you return to a natural form of water. So where you can fit yourself around circumstances instead of trying to fit them around you. You're not going to fit an iceberg around it's going to be difficult to fit an iceberg around circumstances. So the iceberg gets sort of melted, and that's the loss of interest, really, in what? Self. So let's say there's self-forgetting you're an iceberg, and then you're reborn as the water that you've always been. So to use that imagery. How do you like that, Mike? All right?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I threw my hearts up for it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the solution in that level. So for me, the solution is an answer to a problem. And in our case, the problem is a seeming hopeless state of mind and body. So its nature is it's an appearance. It's appearing to be a hopeless state of mind and body to us. Yes. But in fact, the great opening is that it's appearing to be a hopeless state of mind and body, and therefore it can appear not to be if our condition changes. Yeah. Not its condition, but our condition. So what the program of recovery does, it really made us only one promise, which is to be restored to sanity, being restored to sanity from the insanity that precedes the first drink. Yeah. That's basically the promise in a sense. And they said this is actually going to come to pass by a spiritual awakening. Yeah. That's really what the 12 steps are. Yes. So let's say the spirit is there and it can appear to you that you're asleep to it or awake to it. Yeah. Just like the other thing, this disease can seem to be a hopeless state of mind and body or not a hopeless state of mind and body through the effects of recovery. Yeah. So many of us right now are living in it. It is not a hopeless state of mind and body. That problem has been defeated, so to speak. Yeah. So the same thing with this is things are appearing to be so to us. Yeah. So in the head's view, when you're up the ass of self, you see a lot of molehills as mountains, yes? But are they mountains? No. They're molehills, yeah? But we make the molehill into a mountain. So the head, it's almost like going to one of those amusement parks where they have the hall of mirrors, and some of those mirrors, when you look into them, distort your body and you laugh about it, yeah? But to me, obsession with self distorts how we see. Like it talks about in the book, it's a disease of perception also, yeah? So your perception gets altered, yeah? And you're seeing threats where there aren't any. You're seeing a lot of mountains out of molehills. It's affecting how you navigate and live a life, yeah? The paranoia that can come, let's say if you're on cocaine or something, the paranoia of laying on the ground and looking underneath the front door to see if there's any shoes, getting ready to knock on the door. I mean, usually a person hanging around today doesn't end up there, doesn't do that. They just don't. They're not imagining big fucking boots coming and crawling down, these things. So we're hallucinating. Tons of shit's happening under this effect. So, but it's only all seemingly so. Yeah. 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 As it says in the book, it says, if you can be honest, this can work. Yeah. Some people are mentally and physically unable to be honest with themselves. Yeah. And those people need to have solace and a different sort of solution, yeah? But if you can somewhat become honest or be honest, that's all that's needed, yeah? And a little willingness. And if you don't have any willingness, pray for it, yeah? Or do what many of us do, which is fake it till you make it. I mean, when I came in AA, I didn't have much of an agenda, you know? I didn't have a job. I didn't have a relationship. I had nowhere to go. I mean, the shelter of a meeting was great. Yeah, yeah. So, to me, when I speak about the definition of a solution, it's the thing of the problem doesn't exist for you anymore. A day at a time. That to me is a bona fide class A1 solution. Yeah. And that it was brought about with no thought or effort on your part, which is unbelievably clear, yes, about what we believe is essentially our reliance on us, which is doing and thinking. Yeah. That doing and thinking, that is the basic verification of us as a body, had nothing to do with it. Isn't that incredible? So the solution, problem will not exist to you, and this shit will happen with no thought or effort on your part. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. And what happens after that? Don't you see a lot of things had nothing to do with your thought or effort? I think that's the spirit of the third step. And you start dancing that tune in life. Yeah. And you suddenly find you have a newfound ability to stay out of the outcome business. Yeah. And your role ends up at suiting up and showing up. Yeah. It's all these beautiful things that are said in our community. You live them. Yeah. And not maybe through a discipline, you just come to live the stuff. Yeah. And it doesn't seem to be a lot of thought and effort. Yeah. You just stay out of the outcome business. And then when something seems to be real important, you see how you're giving it a meaning of being really important causes dis-ease and discomfort because the head wants to control and manage. So when you start controlling and managing again, it's brought into a stark contrast where you can see it. Yeah. And because it doesn't work. I mean, I see it with my gal, Amelia. Amelia loves passion fruit. Incredible. She's obsessed with it. She'll go drive an hour to buy 20 pounds from some nondescript woman that's living in some fucking garden. Well, we get passion fruit plants. None of them live. None of them survive. Yeah. Now, if I got the plant, it would probably survive because I don't have much interest in it. But her interest is so much, it's sort of everything, it kills everything that she wants to grow. And now my life was doing that constantly on a lot of areas. Yeah. But it's easy to see. So you learn the value of not being the outcome business by these sporadic examples of when you get into the outcome business. Yeah. It's like instead of going back to school, you have like a symposium in your own life for a half an hour and you realize, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what it's like when you're in the outcome business. Yeah. Wow. I don't like that feeling. Okay. Now there's power. So, you don't have that dilemma anymore. You have power and you can actually learn. Yeah. To stay out of the outcome business. Yeah, it's awesome. So, as they say, it's a spiritual solution because the problem resides in the mind. So obviously, like Einstein said, you can't seek a solution from the system that's producing the problem. It doesn't work. Yeah. So they call it a spiritual solution. It was fucking unbelievable idea. Combating this active addictions of alcoholism. Yeah. It broke a barrier. It came through and it worked on a massive scale. So a lot of people wouldn't have to live on end up in a deeper bottom. They could actually get it before they ended up there. Yeah. Just by recognizing, by sitting with other people that have suffered under this tyranny, recognizing the same tyranny is on them. Yeah. And maybe, just maybe, they could live a day at a time, not drinking and using, and not triggering that fucking shit. Yeah. Incredible, isn't it? So 12 steps are to induce a spiritual awakening. Now, are you waking up to something that wasn't there? No. Yeah. I just wasn't seeing it. Yeah. So it was appearing to me as if it wasn't there, but it is there. So we wake up to the fact that the spirit has always been here. Yeah. So we come out of the sleep that was induced by the head, It has been induced by the head, and we've come under a trance of self-centeredness. And in that condition, spirituality doesn't seem to be readily apparent. Yeah. We think we have to do something to produce a spiritual condition, when a spiritual condition is the underlying condition. But coming from the head, it has us believing we have to do something to get to where we actually already are, which is in spirit. Isn't that insane? And then what happens? You try all this shit and it fails. And if you hear the right understanding, that failure isn't going to be another stick you beat yourself up with. It's going to be a hallelujah, because you are what you're looking for. You are of spirit. So you wake up to that which has always been here at all times, right where you are. Incredible. Yeah. So now that solution that could be distant and have to you get a lot of time to get to is always available at all times right now, with no requirement necessary for you to meet it, because you are it. That's a solution. Yeah. So I don't believe there's no spirit, no spirit, no spirit. Then you have a spiritual awakening and then there's spirit. I believe there's spirit, and you can either be asleep to that or awake to that. Yeah. It doesn't change the fact that there's spirit, but in your life it does, because you can be asleep to the idea of spirit or you can be awake to it. AA induces an awakeness to it by doing this 12 steps, or the 11 steps, really. Yes? And so by doing the 11 steps, you are in the waking up out of the trance and then waking up to spirit. Yeah. They go right at the same time. Waking up to spirit is coming out of the trance of self. Yeah. You come out of the trance of self, and then there's an immediate waking up to spirit. And that's the focus of the program, is to induce a spiritual awakening that would be sufficient enough to change your personality characteristics or whatever. Yeah. And here we are. Many of us, this is exactly what's happened to us. So I do believe recovery delivers the goods. I do. They weren't saying, people always talk about, I'm still crazy. They didn't promise that you wouldn't be crazy about old cars or fucking something else. They promised you would be restored to sanity concerning the insanity that precedes the first drink. Yeah. Because if you don't drink, a lot of this shit is academic. Yeah. It's the problem is after you drink. Before you drink, there isn't really a problem, in a sense. Hopefully for many of us, it's sort of been hibernated. It's been forced into a hibernation, but drinking could wake it up. Yes. And that's a healthy fear. I've seen too many people around 20 years go out, and it is not pretty what can happen. Yeah, it is not pretty. And they were quote unquote spiritual giants. Yes. But when something comes in, these other things that are readily appearing to you seem to disappear. So when self arises and gets the dominant position, there's a lot of shit that's seemingly forgotten. Yes. It puts, like we call the conscious presence, and to me, the obsession with self is the unconscious presence. Yeah. So yeah. Is that good?
It's fantastic, Paul, from you. Thank you.
Solution.
We have a question with Walter. Ready for a question?
Yes.
Hey, Walter. Can you unmute?
Good morning. Dr. House is saying from every alcoholic is gonna pick up sooner or later when he lives long enough. It's been also my observation. But anyway, you know what you're saying about self. I mean, if you want to do this program successful, you first have to encounter the whole thing that this whole thing about self is nonsense. I mean, that's actually already the end of the story, isn't it?
Well, that's what you need to answer, isn't it? That has to be a personal answer. Stated doesn't mean anything. It has to be a personal answer. It has to be how you see it. So,
yeah. But I come again and again to the point from what you said about going down the rabbit hole. I had to look it up. What do you mean exactly? I always said it in a different way, you know, just confused in the fucking head. And then indeed you make all stories up which never happened, you know? And then you go into fucking drama, and then you feel ashamed, and then you feel guilty, and then you try to repair it, and the mess is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you know? And then the frustration, and then you pick up and so on. And as soon as you don't pick up, that's my experience. You go, you do just the normal things, you know, eat properly, okay, relax into yourself, you know. For me, it's getting more and more peace. And my observation, I did it myself, you know, being sober and still making up more and more difficult stories, you know. And then thinking that you are in recovery, and you're putting yourself in another fucking jail.
it can be, yes.
It can be. It's. But what I hear about you when you're saying just now the talk about self, and yeah, actually you say the same in the non-duality meetings, you know, from first wake up and then the rest, you know. But somehow there is a shyness about it that you actually are already a Buddha, you know. First you have to go through a whole fucking trip and so on. Why not go directly? No, you are a fucking Buddha, you know. End of the story. And okay, then sometimes you're a drunk Buddha, or you have been a drunk Buddha, and now you're a sober Buddha, you know.
Yes.
And sometimes the head is busy, and sometimes it's quiet. Oh, well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I see that I made my whole life, and I'm also in the autumn of my life. I made a whole fucking big mind trip about my life and around everything around me, and it was not necessary. It was nonsense.
Well, most stuff is, but hey, it happened seemingly, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then again, you know, did I do that or did it happen?
I didn't hear that last part. Did
Did I do or did it just happen? You know,
just happened, yes.
I mean, yeah, I was
Seemingly.
frustrated. as a kid, I was already fascinated about the drunks and the crazy people, you know. But
Yeah.
did I
Hey,
choose for it? I
you know what
mean,
I use, Walter? Just simple. If something was supposed to happen, it did. And if it didn't, it wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah. It keeps it clean.
yeah.
I don't know. What we're here in this platform, we do have a certain point and a purpose, which is to point out the nature of what's calling, that's, I believe, is the source of the irritability, restlessness, and discontent, and to have a condition called relief from the bondage of self. And then we can riff on everything. And in other meetings, I have other possibilities, but here we're really attempting to see the possibility that that thing that has defeated us is not of us, and to start understanding that it may not change as much as you're going to change, and not to give up the value or the recognition of how much you've changed when it's stubbornly staying the same way it is. Yeah. Because of this allegiance to it through being identified as it. This was what this is a point that's important to me at these meetings, coming in our community of people who have suffered from the bondage of self. Yeah. So we go about it. All of this stuff I discovered, I didn't know that when I would have these incredible events of relief, and then time passed and it seemed like I was doing the same old thing, I had no idea that wasn't me. I had no idea. So these beautiful free samples would be invalidated because something never got the fucking free sample. Yeah. I did. I changed. I had an incredible sense of whatever, but the head just kept on doing what it did. So I saw this cannot be me. Yeah. It just became fucking obvious based on I'm having these incredible changes and it's not changing at all. Literally. Yeah. So I didn't think there was another person in me. I don't think there is a person. So I saw the head as a mechanical activity. And it gave me a huge amount of relief from the burden of thinking I did all this shit. And also the way it invalidates events in your life that are incredible because it doesn't show any change. It just keeps thinking about the same shit and whatever. And somehow we take its reactions as our reactions. And I just love to have this platform to point out that is not true. So when someone is talking to me and goes, I'm afraid, and I know it's the alcoholism saying it. I know it. Yeah. That person at that moment doesn't have any recognizable feeling. But the head is going, I'm afraid. And then the person parrots it and goes, I'm afraid. Yeah. To me, that's the act of being identified as something other than you. That's what I want to point out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But I remember, for instance, I had quite some fear before I actually became a real alcoholic, but just for buildings, you know, just for existence itself, not particular in human beings. And that was relieved it was only relieved when I was drinking, you know, momentarily, you know, for a moment. You know, I'm very grateful because nowadays I can enjoy things without the drinking, which I could not before, you know.
Yes.
Now, indeed, I can sit by a tree and completely disappear in the tree. Before, I needed a bottle of wine with it, you know.
Yeah.
Still that didn't work at all anymore, you know.
That's fate. You know, you've learned to, face life successfully. And again, like Kerry said, what does successfully mean? Well, in AA's parlance is you don't need a drink or a fucking drug. or you may need a drink and a drug, but you realize that which needs it isn't you. Yeah. So now you're facing life successfully, and they have a defined meaning of what successfully means, which is not drinking over the shit and not doing drugs over the shit.
Nowadays, indeed, I noticed from, in another kind of, when I was still, the times when I was still drinking, a certain given situation, for sure, I would pick up, you know. And nowadays, I see the situation, I just have to laugh about it, you know.
There you go. That's what.
Not a thought to go to the booze shop, you know. Not a fucking thought about it. Are you fucking crazy, you know?
This is the progress, not perfection. This is it. Yeah. Our targets aren't the stars. We just don't want to trip over the curb every second. Yeah.
I mean,
looking at the curbs and lifting our leg high enough not to fucking trip. That's a good fucking day.
I mean, the ridiculousity for me, you know, with my spirituality and with my self-realization, you know, I completely misunderstood the whole matter, you know.
Yes.
And
Well,
I'm putting wine over it or whatever, you know, and thinking, yeah, we're developing, you know, fucking nonsense.
well, there you go. This is how, you know, failure is the greatest success.
Yeah, and the expensive therapy and whatever, you know, fucking nonsense.
Hey, but if you feel like you need to do it, you're probably going to do it. And this is how it goes. And in a weird way, that person has provided a livelihood, and maybe that's the point. So your misunderstanding and ignorance is actually allowing that person to live a life with cash, the therapist. Who knows? That could be the whole fucking, that could be the whole setup.
This is bloody spiritual, what you're saying.
I just feel, I don't, you know, people are making a lot of money on a lot of stuff. That's maybe the reason why. Hey, our livelihood is formulated on certain requirements, money and shit like that. So your ignorance is like a cash cow to someone else. So maybe that's why you're expressing the ignorance, because someone else is getting supported by it. I mean, we look at everything so self-centeredly that we never realize the person doesn't care if you have a pure heart or not when you're handing them the sandwich at the fucking soup kitchen. They just want the sandwich. They're not interested in your inner feelings. They just fucking hand them the sandwich.
Yeah, pal, I'm doing service tomorrow. I'm chaired at 7 o'clock in the morning.
There you go. So, I mean, our seemingly, why is life imposing this on me? Well, that imposition may be causing you to spend money that's providing a livelihood for someone else. And maybe that's your fucking action figure purpose, to be taken by grifters. Who knows? I mean, who the hell? You didn't write the script. You don't know the comedy team that's sitting behind the screen and doing it. I mean, one thing you should know, somehow or another, you're going to be the butt of the big joke most of the time. Yeah. So this idea of what would happen if there was no retreats? The people in Costa Rica or some other country who clean up after it wouldn't have a livelihood. Yeah. So the purpose of the retreat may not be what you think the purpose of the retreat should be. Maybe it's just providing livelihood for people.
Yeah.
So your $2,000 looking for spiritual recognition is providing a livelihood for 20 Costa Rican families. Great.
Yeah, the war in Ukraine is boosting the American economy. That's
who knows? I have no idea. I do know the thing that broadcasts in my head is like a one-eye cyclops. It doesn't fucking have any clue what the hell is going on. So, and it usually takes a view that always pertains to itself. So I'm very clear about that. So your purpose may be the fulfillment of someone else's purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only thing nowadays know that when I'm totally in my fucking head, you know, that I see. I don't know.
All right, look at a gazelle's head. So a gazelle
Yeah.
Is to be in the belly of a lion. Now, who would think, as a self-centered gazelle, that was going to be your purpose? But in sense, as the script goes, that's one of the purposes. Yeah. That
Yeah.
gazelle is going to be ripped to shreds and eaten by a pride lion.
Yeah. Yeah. I also want to be eaten by wolves or by birds, actually.
Well,
At
we
the
can,
moment, I'm
we can set that up. We are having a before death, after death, a ministry. Yeah. We'll help you with that. We'll drop you into the German forest with the black wolves. Yes.
dead.
Yeah. We'll see what your purpose is then.
Yeah. When I'm gone, not before.
All right. All right. But you know what I
Anyway,
mean?
thank you, mate.
You know how everyone, like, when they go to their past lives, they're always like Cleopatra or some fucking prince.
I know that
Who
one,
was
you
the
know.
guy? Who was the cobbler? And who was picking up the shit on the streets? They never, you never recollect them. Yeah. It's just
You
crazy.
know, I make jokes about it. Also, my family name. You know, I say from I was in my past life I was working in a concentration camp. You know, and then people are very much shocked. You know, and then I make joke, continue to joke. Well, it was actually not so bad. You know, then they're shocked. You know, who knows? I don't know. If I believe it, it was true.
Yes. Well, the whole thing.
But I was dreaming last night. I was Paul Hedderman.
Wow. Well.
So what was Paul Hedderman dreaming?
I don't know what I was dreaming last night. I had a very restful night. What was I just gonna say? Oh, didn't it always blow your mind, the third step prayer, when they start talking about, please relieve me of the bondage of self so I can better, have a better house in Malibu. But no, it's all about being of use to others. Yeah. And this is the
Yeah.
purpose, for us to be of maximum use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do my best as far as I can, you know.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You don't know how you're being used, do you? I mean, just
No,
sitting silently at an AA meeting, maybe being used to affect someone who just walked in without you sharing or saying anything.
yeah. I do my best, you know. I'm very careful that I'm not damaging people.
Yeah, that's all you can do, is you can do your best. And then and if you step on people's toes, you're just making amends.
If I'm aware of it.
Yeah. Well,
It's not difficult to step on people's toes, especially not within the AA, you know. Very
some
easily
people
done.
need their toes stepped on, so you're actually doing a good job. Yeah. Some
Anyway,
people wake up and their toes are stepped on. But Walter, we got to get going to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Walter. Hey, next up we have Mike. Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Great. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Paul, as always. I was thinking of the line out of the book that the consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. And I think that what you were saying about like fake it till you make it, act as if, don't drink or use no matter what, I think those have value as long as I'm pursuing some sort of course of action with these steps. Because the problem is I would come in and out with various lengths of sobriety and continue to use those. I mean, they're basically slogans, right? And they would run out. It wouldn't be that they would run out. It would just be obvious that I'd be driven by something else that was, or it never stopped being driven by that self. So that consciousness of that belief, you kind of wrapped up too with the idea of like, it's about God consciousness, and that is kind of being awake, and self-consciousness is being asleep. And it's funny because I don't even see this as a practice anymore. I just hang out here with you and things seem to trickle in to the matrix, and they just kind of push out the delusion that there's anything else going on than what's going on. And this work has brought me to a place like whenever you talk about cocaine, because, you know, I was the dude stuck in hotel rooms for days and days, like on my hands and knees, taking outlets off the wall, looking under the door, watching every shadow, ending up in a closet in a hotel room that I was alone in. And that dark past and the truths of where vodka and cocaine took me are really the bedrock that keeps this willingness going to continue to have deeper experiences with these blind spots of, I guess, where self still kind of exists, or there's, I guess, agnosticism is self-reliance, really. And that is a blessing. And yeah, for me, there's no other way but to be of service to people, to constantly turn out, go to meetings, do my 10 steps throughout the day, or look at 6 and 7, which I think is really valuable to really look at that throughout the day and discuss this with people. And thank God I have people that are on this path. And when I say not just the 12 steps, but they're into this non-duality thing, and they get to call out the delusion, you know, and that's what we do. I want to stay in the middle of the herd that is awake and on this same path that I'm on. Because unfortunately for me, I was in the regular or mainstream AA, whatever you want to call it. That really wasn't like the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is not really popular in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings sometimes. And I like to hang out at those meetings. You know, I had a really badass Impala. I'd get there early. It'd be slammed. I'd have the pit bull in the back seat. You know, make sure everybody saw my shit, just pure image and self-obsession, right? And I kept coming in and out and in and out. And when I was introduced to this work at a deeper level in 2005, like things started clicking that were so foreign to me that I'd never really experienced in AA. And if it was presented, I was obviously too asleep to even see it. Where there's been this, I don't know, man. I've just been fucking cracked open, brother, on a level that just couldn't have happened through, inner child workshops, PHPs, IOPs, rehabs, 18 months in a youth program. Maybe I needed discipline. 18 months in the Air Force threw me out. I was smoking crack, guarding nuclear weapons. Like it just goes on and on and on. And the culmination of those things is actually a blessing, because I had to do everything I could do to see there was fucking nothing I could do, dude. Yes. What a blessing that is. Oh, you're totally, nope, tried that. Well, try it the 5th time. Maybe it'll be different, right? So what a blessing that we get to have all those experiences, to see the failure of self on every level, physically, mentally. You know, maybe I can go to some location. Another last thing, and I'll shut up. A sponsee of mine is getting out of a really intense 18-month program because he truly believed if he followed, and this is nothing against Joe Dispenza, he truly believed if he followed Joe Dispenza to all these retreats and did this little bit of microdosing, that he'd have awakenings and pierce the veil. You know, what he did was he pierced the veil right back into drinking vodka, you know, because I'm not going to sit and do a drug that will bring me back to that drug of no choice and try to use it as, a spiritual experience of the organic or plant-based variety, because I know me and I love smoking sherm and I loved eating mushrooms. So it is very delusional for me to think that there's any form of plant-based or ketamine, or this is it. I don't care what anybody else does, this is my thing, or L25 type therapy that will bring about that shift and that change that Carl Jung talks about in that book, right? About Roland Hazard. Like, I know that this truly is a daily reprieve, and paying attention to just that voice that tries to literally riddle me and keep me in confusion and doubt all day. And you so eloquently line this up with the book, so it makes even more sense. That's what lured me into non-duality, is the big book, as weird as that sounds. And when you started breaking down that 3rd step, I was like, oh, fuck, you can't dispute this. So what a blessing, bro. You have a great day, man. I hope I can make one of these trips and meet you in person soon.
Oh,
That'd be great.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Michael. Yes. And you know, another person, they do stuff and it will work, maybe. This is the thing. You have to know where you're at, in a sense, where other people may not apply, but you need to know where you're at. And I like the space of abstinence, which means nothing comes to mind. So you're just in the habit of being dog shit sober. It's good. It's very good. So, yeah. All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, Linton just raised his hand. Hello, Linton.
Hey there. Hi all. Thanks. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing up the that idea of solution, Michael. It's just led to such an interesting discussion and a real shift in things. I love that you you looked up there is a solution, because I've had that, it's there, there is a solution. And I've been in and out of this program for kind of 20 odd years, and every time I've seen that, I've seen it as a set of instructions for my head to do. Steps 1, 2, 3, there you go, there's an algorithm to run, head goes off, this is what I need to do to stay sober. And every time I've fallen off, and it's coming through here that I've really turned that all around. And actually, when you were talking there about solution, I love the sort of metaphor of the iceberg there, of just the water solidified like this great block trying to force its way through pack ice and sea and things to make its own direction, and just the dissolution of that. It's just water turning into a different form, and through no effort or will on our part. And it just gives a whole different shape to what we're talking about here, and what the program of recovery is, which is just such a refreshing take. And it's crazy, isn't it, that it says it there in black and white throughout the book, that this is this is not us doing it. The whole purpose is to get us out of the way of doing it. And yet every time I've come through it, I've read it as, here's what I need to do. It's crazy, and it's just so lovely just listening to that and just taking that whole thing. There is a dissolution, there's not a solution, there's a dissolution. It's an undoing, it's not a doing. What a refreshing way of this whole approach to life, actually. Yeah, thanks very much for that, Michael, and thanks for your take on that, Paul.
Well, and again, but when this scaffolding is first put up, there is doing. Yeah. But this is basically following your feet and stuff type doing. Yeah. It's not metaphysical transcending doing. It's just not drinking, no matter what, an hour at a time or whatever it takes. Yeah. And fake it till you make it. If your head says you don't believe any of this shit, still go to the meeting, because you're not going to survive listening to the fucking head. Yeah. So there is doing, but then the results that occur aren't based on the doing. The results that occur when your doing puts you in a position to receive is grace. Yeah. Or the higher power. But there's doing, but we're not doing ourselves into the sober condition. Yeah. We're doing for us to be able to stay in a sober condition through reliance on a higher power. It's a different sense of doing. So a lot of people do something with a very clear, specific result from that doing. No, our doing is just a form of keeping us in the ball game, so this thing can change the tide of the game, so to speak. Yeah. And the biggest thing is a non-doing, which is drinking and using. We're gonna try our best not to do something with the help of this program and the grace. And then hopefully that's going to get a momentum and you'll be in the habit of being sober. But there is doing, but it's not the doing sort of like making money. No, doing is you're cutting the piece of wood and then you get paid for it. Yeah. The doing isn't making money. The doing is doing something, and then something may come from it, money. Yeah. Our thing is we're doing what others have done and what has been presented as the program of doing in the 12-step description. Yes. That's it. And then all the descriptions of the effects aren't based on what we're doing. They're based on what we're now accessing through the doing we're doing, which is the higher power. So supposedly. So this has never been, in my view, a self-help program, and it doesn't turn into a self-help program. It's a reliance on something other program. Yeah. Yeah. But because everything here usually is played out through a dance or an act, we're going to do. We have certain things we need to do and most essentially not do. And all we have to do is follow these simple fucking suggestions, and this magic trick is going to be worked on us, and we're going to have a spiritual awakening, which hopefully they were hoping and believe would have a sufficient amount of change in us that we would lose the interest to drink. Yeah, that urge would be removed based on this spiritual awakening. So the idea that I'm making myself happy, that's way beyond your doing level. Your doing is doing. It's not outcome. Yeah. And this is the beauty of AA. AA tries to make a very clear line between the doing and then the outcome. And we're not in the business, we're not in the outcome business. Yeah. So we're not trying to do ourselves into an outcome. We're just doing what we've been suggested to do. It made no sense for me to be sitting in cafes when I wasn't drinking coffee when I was the first 6 months with guys I barely knew doing shit. And I would sometimes say to him, I'm not doing shit. What are we doing? He says, hey, you're staying sober. So I just took suggestions, went where they went, did what they did, and not do what they did not do. And it opened me up to this new influence, yeah, that was sufficient enough and powerful enough to break my addiction to the old influence. So, yeah, I'm going to be employed. So I'm going to I did a lot of shit under the old employer, and I'm going to do a little shit under the new employer. But the old employer has you completely responsible for the outcome, which is all bullshit. It's complete bullshit. You did not do the shit you did looking for the results that happened. Yeah. You were driven to do it. Yeah. So it completely has you in the outcome business. Its outcome now is your outcome. So you're suffering the remorse and the guilt of its outcome by being identified it as your outcome. In AA, we are not in the outcome business. Therefore, when the outcomes occur, we have the ability to meet calamity with serenity and also to have fucking gratitude for some power that has brought us to a condition of being sober a day at a time. And all the possibilities which are innumerable, which are open with that sobriety. The fucking thing is, the doing was completely aligned with the outcome in the old employer. So you were driven to do shit and you're responsible for the fucking outcome. That's how we have to live in the amends, but I do not see that. I see we're not accountable for the outcomes. Yeah. I did not do the shit that happened through me. Something drove me and used me to do it. That's distinctly different than a lot of people I meet. A lot of people go to gratitude for something doing for them what they can't do for themselves, like a duck to the water, but they cannot apply that to the older employer. They keep believing they were the doer of all the outcomes, and you were not the doer of the outcomes. This is the bondage of self. This is unbelievably the bondage of self. You're living based on outcomes of 40 fucking years ago. $40 years ago, 40 days ago, 40 minutes ago. You're completely pinned as the outcome maker in the old employer's view. It does so much shit through us, and we're left holding the bag. It's insane that we keep carrying that bag after 30 years of sobriety. It's fucking insane. Every time you get to the airport, you go to lost baggage and you reclaim the fucking thing. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Tell me how you cannot see that. You're not in the outcome business when you were completely the business of the outcome in the past. You're holding responsibility for all those outcomes after you've made the amends and seen what actually drove you to that outcome was not you. Yeah. This isn't a way of skipping the inventory and the amends. It's another wave after the amends, which they hadn't arrived at. They only had 4 years sobriety when they wrote the book. We've watched this event for 67 years. There's many more waves in it that weren't captured in the big book. There's the wave of accountability, where we reach another level of forgiveness, where we do not see ourselves as the author of all the fucking results while we were drinking. We arrived there. It's called accountability. Yeah. It's not written in a book, but it can be written in our program, because this is a living program. Yes. It says this power is going to constantly reveal to us. Yeah. Do you think the revelation ended at the big book? We're not adding any pages to it, but we're adding a lot to it from being under the influence of the higher power for all these years. Yeah. There is another wave of recovery, and it's recognizing, by looking at your role in things, something else's role in things, and hopefully seeing it as foreign to you. Yeah. Yeah. So we keep pounding away at it. It's going to find a footing in this community. And that's awesome. That's the whole point. One of the points. If you're blessed with an understanding, you don't want to leave with it. You want to give it away. Yeah. This understanding has affected my relationships with a lot of people. People get mad at me who don't even know me in recovery. Yeah. Winning friends and relationships, it would have been better not to say fucking that thing and constantly share it and always pledge allegiance. I'm still fucked up. Yeah. But no way. So, yeah. I'm not leaving with this understanding. We're leaving this understanding. Yeah. We're leaving it in all these talks and the videos and shit. So anybody could find it and follow it, and maybe it'll hit an ear at the right moment for some hearing can occur, and maybe all we're hoping for is relief, so that people can travel lighter through this story, because we know how to travel fucking heavy. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't see how you can't see it. How can you keep taking authorship of shit that you didn't even do 40 years ago, yet know immediately to surrender any outcome to the greatness of the higher power? I mean, they're two sides of the same coin. Do you want to just live a blindly that every coin is always heads on both sides? No, there's a head and a tail, but it's the same coin. Something was doing through us what we would not have done by ourselves, and now something is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. That's how it is. We don't see the first one. We see everything it did as we did it. That is the bondage of self. So, wow. Huh, yeah. All right. I think that's it.
Thank
Eh?
you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Paul.
no, you have time for one more? Corey
Yes,
has
sure.
it.
Yes.
Hi, Corey, come on in. Corey, we can't hear you with your earbuds in. Maybe if you, no, we still can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Now you can.
There we go.
No.
No. Can't hear you, Corey.
You'll have to come back. We won't be here next week. You better get on. You better. Can't hear you.
So,
Let's start saying goodbye. Maybe she'll come back on, eh?
okay.
Terry, as always, thank for your early wisdom before the talk. Axel.
Wisdom. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Anytime, Paul. You need wisdom? Give me a call.
Yeah.
No charge.
I don't call you because of wisdom.
Hey, you just said, thanks for your wisdom.
All
Come
right.
on, be consistent, bro. Oh, that's sarcasm.
Axel.
My girlfriend says that's sarcasm. All right. Peace out.
Axel. Nice to see you. Linton, Ondura. James Lebowski, my main man. Yeah. He feels very secure. He has a supply of half and half. Yeah, you don't have to go write a check, bro. Walter in the Netherlands. Joseph C. in France. Always a pleasure, Joseph. Rick Rowe, Toronto. Jess, the Irish lass. How are you? Good? Oh, very good. Michael Stacy, as always, Rico Cruz. Remember, we're not going to be here next Thursday, nor the Tuesdays. Wednesday, Saturday, yes. This Saturday, yes, but not Tuesday, Thursday next week, because I'm going to be live and I'll be doing some stuff at the same time. So Oliver, Roman Mueller, thank you for all the support, Roman, and everything. Saraswati, John K, Mike M, Miss Volkman, John in Florida, and if yeah, there was a little mistake on the schedule. It didn't have Thursday. But if you ever come here, any Zoom link of any meeting is the same link. So you can get in anyway. Okay, we got a phone number there. And hey, listen, I would re-listen to the last part we had. It's fundamentally important. The old employer, new employer thing. And wonder why it is that so easily we can give great joy and gratitude for something and not see the other something that fucking destroyed us. But hey, all right. Thank you. I'll check it out soon.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks all. Good to be here.
We'll be live next week in